with the Committee on Public Services to tackle Senate Bill number 1530, an act amending Section 18, Book 7, Chapter 3 of the Administrative Code of the Philippines, non-expiration of license or franchise. This measure has been introduced by Senator Franklin Drilon, our minority leader. We will proceed with this representation's opening statement before we acknowledge the presence of our distinguished colleagues in the Senate who may also wish to give their opening statements, and before we recognize and acknowledge the presence of our resource persons. Again, good morning. When ABS-CBN went dark and silent on May 5 amidst the pandemic, everyone felt its staggering effects. Among them, 43-year-old Fe Repalde of Bacoor, Cavite. In an interview with the New York Times, she said she and her family have always relied on ABS-CBN for information on earthquakes and typhoons, floods, and political turmoil. And sabi niya, and I quote, "Ngayon di na namin alam ang nangyayari. Hindi na kami makapagpanood ng TV news sa Channel 2 para sabihin kung ano ang gagawin namin," she said. Today, the loss of jobs for the broadcast giants, potential loss of 11,000 employees and thousands more of their suppliers is overwhelming enough. At this point, about 2.2 million workers have already lost their jobs because of the lockdown. Siyempre, maliwanag pa sa sikat ng araw, mas mahirap maghanap ng ibang trabaho sa ganitong sitwasyon. The Department of Labor and Employment has said that in the coming months, anywhere between 5 to 7 million of our kababayans will also be losing jobs. Damang-dama ang pag-aalala ng kanilang mga kapamilya, kamag-anak at kaibigan, lalo doon sa mga may batang anak at may karamdamang mga magulang. Sa mga negosyante, lokal man o dayuhan, sa mga namumuhunan at sa iba pang mga mamamahayag, nakakapangilabot din ang pag-shutdown sa pinakamalaking broadcast network ng bansa. But the impact of its shutdown on regular folk depending only on the newscast available to them in the provinces is also concerning. Sa mga tweets, ito ang sinasabi ng ilang mga kababayan natin mula sa probinsya. Namomroblema po tuloy ang parents ko sa Sorsogon. Kasi sa munisipyo po kami, malayo sa syudad. Wala silang mapapanood. Nakakalungkot sa panahon po talaga ngayon na wala ang ABS-CBN. Isa ito sa pinagkukunan ng impormasyon sa isla namin. Kahit ito ang may malakas na, dahil ito ay may malakas na signal doon. Nangangapa kung ano-ano at kung gaano kalakas ang bagyo. Mabibigla na lang na humahagupit na. Malaking tulong sana kung napapabalita ngayon ng ABS-CBN. Sabi naman ng isa, may bagyo tapos ang iba dito sa amin, Channel 2 lang ang abot na signal. In a Rappler News article, UP Tacloban Mass Communication Instructor Marilu Morales points out that the shutdown creates an information void and worsens the already dire lack of independent news in Eastern Visayas. And she says, I quote, "Today, not just in the time of pandemic, but also of fake news, we need more sources of credible information." The UP Tacloban Masscom teacher said for communities, quote unquote, that cannot pick up any other channel but ABS-CBN, the government shutdown of ABS-CBN has blindsided them. She called the situation dangerous, adding that people might not know when the virus is already knocking on their doors. The reach of ABS-CBN was incomparable. Stations in 12 areas including Northern Luzon, Southern Tagalog, Bicol, Palawan, Cebu, Panay, Negros, and it has several radio stations, both AM and FM. Today, we convene this joint meeting of the Committee on Constitutional Amendments and Revision of Codes and the Committee on Public Services to bring to fore a very relevant and timely bill. Senate Bill 1530, authored by Senator Frank Drilon, proposes to amend Section 18, Book 7, Chapter 3 of the Administrative Code of the Philippines to include franchises, stating that, quote, "Where a licensee or franchise has made timely and sufficient application for new renewal of a franchise or license, the same shall not expire until after finally determined by the relevant department, agency, or branch of government," close of quote. The bill amends an existing provision under the revised administrative code to include franchises, and I quote, making it incumbent upon the issuing authority to act on an application and avoid situations where silence or inaction would effectively bar the operations of an enterprise. Close of quote. In the recent past, networks were allowed to operate even beyond the effectivity of their franchises, networks, and telcos, which were renewed several months or years later. To name a few, TV5 Networks Inc. franchise expired on December 2018, but the new franchise bill was signed on April 2019. The CBCP Network Franchise Catholic Bishop Conference of the Philippines expired in 2017. Its new franchise was approved 2 years later in 2019. Subic Broadcasting Corporation franchise expired in 2017. Its renewal was approved in 2018. Radio Marine Network Incorporated franchise validly lasted until 2018, and its new franchise was approved in 2019. Smart Communications franchise lapsed on March 2017, but the new franchise was approved in April of 2017. Globe Innova's franchise expired in April 2017, while the new franchise was approved December 2018. We have invited resource persons, including legal luminaries and experts, to enlighten us on the possibility of approving this measure as a critical tool on how, moving forward, this can help in the pursuit of the rule of law and democratic accountability. Sa sinapupunan ng katotohanan na bubuhay ang demokrasya at maging ang tamang mga pulisya tungkol sa mga nangyayari sa atin, kabilang nga ang pandemya. Sabi nga nung rival network ng ABS-CBN na GMA7, ang katotohanan ang magpapalaya sa bayan. Yun din ang katotohanan ang ating kaligtasan sa pandemya at sakuna. While we recognize that the grant of franchise is a discretionary power of Congress, it has also become a political power that only Congress can exercise, fortunately or unfortunately. Franchise applicants can't demand Congress to grant them the franchise because it is not a demandable right, but a privilege. Conversely, as franchises are imbued with public service, Congress has the responsibility to act and could not simply hide in the veil of silence or inaction by serving franchise holders a natural death. As we go along in our discussions, we hope we can answer the following questions. What are the legal obstacles, if any, of having this bill pass into law? How can this bill help avoid a situation that has happened to the franchise giant ABS-CBN, or to the media giant ABS-CBN in the future? How will the government agencies be affected by the passage of this bill? These are only among the many questions that could arise from the discussions, and we hope this committee hearing can help enlighten the public. Magandang araw sa kanilang lahat. We would like to place on record at this point the names and members of the Senate Committee on Constitutional Amendments and Revision of Codes. Committee Chairperson, this representation, Vice Chairperson, Senator Lacson. Of course, our members, Senator Angara, Grace Poe, Manny Pacquiao, Gordon, Tolentino, Go, Villar, Nancy Binay, and for the minorities, Senator Risa Ontiveros. We now recognize or acknowledge the presence of the following: our minority leader, Senator Rilon. We also have with us Senator Nancy Binay. May we request, before we proceed with recognizing the resource persons, may we know if Senator Rilon has an opening statement? Please proceed. You have the floor, Senator Rilon.
Mr. Chair. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, allow me to express my appreciation to your committee for putting on the agenda Senate Bill 1530, which we filed and which seeks to amend, as you mentioned, Section 18, Book 7, Chapter 3 of the Revised Administrative Code, which provides for the non-expiration of a license where the licensee has made a timely application for renewal by extending its application to franchises granted by Congress. While it is recognized that a franchise license or certificate is not a privilege, this rule must be tempered with considerations of equity, fairness, due process, and equal protection, particularly when the service being provided has been so woven in everyday life that its abrupt cessation could give rise to devastating and unwelcome consequences. Whether we like it or not, entities are at the mercy of the licensing authorities. There is little choice left except to rely on the good faith that such powers will be exercised judiciously, not arbitrarily, capriciously, or oppressively against anyone. We have seen how well-meaning constitutional directives to Congress result not just in disruption of services, but also in the loss of livelihood of thousands of Filipinos. The Supreme Court, in the case of Associated Communications and Wireless Services versus NTC, has said that a prior congressional franchise on public utilities imposes additional burden and expenses on the part of the applicant. The criticism of the court notwithstanding, the bill does not propose to diminish the power of Congress to grant a legislative franchise. Let me repeat that, Mr. Chairman, for emphasis. The bill does not propose to diminish the power of Congress to grant legislative franchises. The amendment would merely encourage the concerned agency or branch of government, including Congress, to act decisively on applications for renewal and to express its decision in clear, unmistakable terms, ensuring that the applicant is not punished for the authority's indecision or inaction. The bill would fill the gap in cases where a franchise has expired while its renewal remains pending. Congress has applied considerations of equity in previous similar situations, and this measure seeks to institutionalize that practice. In our debates in the Senate, Mr. Chairman, Senator Grace Poe has pointed out that indeed the practice in Congress is that the franchise will continue to, in effect, be effective while the application is pending consideration by Congress on the grounds that equitably the applicant cannot control the pace in which Congress would consider a franchise. And therefore, the rule has always, the legislative practice has always been that the franchise continues to be valid while Congress is in session and while the application for renewal is pending. Mr. Chairman, let me end by quoting a Holocaust survivor, Elie Wiesel, when he said, quote, "Ultimately, the only power to which man should aspire is that which he exercises over himself." While the legislative power of Congress is plenary, our ability to temper the use of those powers to serve the ends of justice will be a measure of our leadership. Congress will be judged by how it does or does not wield the power vested in it. Let this be our legacy, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the minority leader. May we now inquire if Senator Nancy Binay has a prepared opening statement? Is she? Senator Binay, would you like to give an opening statement? Perhaps she stepped out. We can now proceed. May we request the committee secretary to place on record who are our resource persons, and may we also be guided by the committee secretary as to the sequence of who are to be called first or who are to present first. Please proceed with the acknowledgement of our resource persons and place them on record. Go ahead, Attorney Palines.
Good morning. For the resource persons today, Commissioner Gamaliel Cordeba from NTC, Attorney Gwen P. Enciso Quiamco from National Electrification Administration, Attorney Eusabia Cadium Boco from Maritime Industry Authority, Attorney Rhea Joy Morales Gonzalez, Civil Aeronautics Board, Attorney Christian Chano B. Minas Jr., MWSS RO, Attorney Charles Chambaliza from the DOJ, former Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio, and Mr. Roberto S. Nicdao Jr. from the KBP.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Yes, sir. Sir, that would be the chronological order of the presentation for today's hearing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Attorney Palines, our committee secretary. Just a reminder to all our resource persons and all those attending this hearing online, please make sure that your mute button is on all the time unless you are to speak, so that we do not get interference or so that the meeting will be proceed smoothly. Maybe also appeal, to borrow the term of our minority leader said when he mentioned in a hearing the other day or last week, when we ask you for the time, please do not give us the history and the of how a clock was invented. Let's go straight to the point. And so we proceed. We would like to now request for the position papers to be placed on record. May we call on the NTC and Attorney Cordova to proceed with their position paper. You have the floor, Attorney Cordova. Thank you.
Good morning po to Committee Chair, Senator Pangilinan, Senator Dilon, and to other Senator Nancy Binay, who is also present. Good morning po sa inyong lahat. We agree po with the proposed Senate bill of Senator Dilon on this on the amendment of the Revised Administrative Code, Book 7, Chapter 3, Section 18. Malaking bagay po ito para po ma-fix yung pong gap dun sa batas, ano, para po kapag may pending matters ay ito po ay may consider na buhay pa. Kasi po meron po kasi tayong Act number 3846 stating that kailangan po ng franchise for a public utility to operate. So with this amendment as proposed by Senator Dilon, ay malaking bagay po ito to fix that gap in the law. Thank you very much po. That is our statement, Your Honors.
Sorry, my apologies. Thank you very much, Attorney Cordova. Please do not forget to mute your mic until you are called again to give your inputs. May we have the next resource person, Attorney Seng? Who is the next resource person?
It would be Attorney Quiamco from the National Electrification Administration, sir.
Okay, Attorney Quiamco, please proceed. You have the floor.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Your Honors. As for the National Electrification Administration, we fully support the passage of the bill, considering that some of the electric cooperatives franchises are already expiring in 10 years' time. However, Your Honor, may we request that we submit the written comment on this bill signed by the administrator.
Okay, yes, please. Please submit the same to the committee secretariat. Thank you very much for your inputs. And uh, may we have the list also, so I can just call them out one by one. Who is next, Attorney Sen?
It would be Attorney Boko from the Marina, sir.
Okay, Attorney Boko of the Marina, you have the floor for your position paper.
Good morning, Your Honors. Marina interposes no objection to Senate Bill number 1530. We support the proposal of clarifying the legal effect of pending application for renewal of franchise, which for Marina pertains to certificate of public convenience issued to accredited ship owners, operators to engage in domestic shipping in accordance with RA 9295 or the Domestic Shipping Development Act. At Marina, we observe the proactive approach of reminding ship owners, operators on the eventual expiration of their CPC a year prior to expiration, even if renewal of franchise is undoubtedly a business decision since the agency in major roads to serve both passenger and cargo operations and uninterrupted inter-island transport. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. May we have the submissions also from the Marina? Sino ang susunod?
Yes, Your Honor, we will do that.
Sir, the next to speak is Attorney Rhea Joy Morales Gonzalez from the Civil Aeronautics Board.
We have the Civil Aeronautics Board, please. You may proceed.
Yes, good morning, Your Honors. If I may just quote from the comment that we submitted through the committee secretariat. So on behalf of the Civil Aeronautics Board, we fully support the bill authored by Senator Drilon, and the intention of the bill to encourage the concerned agency to act decisively on an application in clear and unmistakable terms is in fact in harmony with the strict procedural observance of issuing a board resolution as the final act of the board in conveying an approval or a denial of an application. And until such act transpires, the applicant for a certificate of public convenience and necessity in the meantime is given a provisional extension of its CPCN in order to avoid disruption of services. In other words, Your Honor, for the CAB, in the event of a forthcoming expiration of a CPCN, we already allow the stakeholders or the applicants to have permits from
What happened to? Is she still on? We cannot hear you. Your signal is not clear. Can you repeat that? The last 2 minutes. Is she? It looks like her line got cut. Okay, we will go back to her. We can proceed with the Department of Justice. Can you call? Is she there?
Yes, sir. Attorney Charles Cambalisa.
Okay, Attorney Charles Cambalisa from the Department of Justice. You now have the floor. Please proceed.
Yeah. First of all, good morning to your honors, and I would like to thank on behalf of the Department of Justice the committee for inviting us to give our comment on this matter. Our comments are brief, and it is that the franchising power of the legislative is an adjunct of its overall plenary legislative power, and as such, it includes the authority to pass this law. As we will say in our position paper, that's for the review of for the signature of the Secretary of Justice right now. Our point will be just that it's connected to inextricably linked to the Congress to pass laws. And as such, the Congress can pass this law. It's that simple. But with the indulgence of the committee, we would like to request permission for a few more days to submit our official position paper. It would be a much more nuanced version of this, what I'm saying right now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yes, please forward your written position paper to the committee secretary. Maraming salamat sa DOJ. Thank you. We now proceed with former Associate Justice Antonio Carpio. Magandang umaga po, Justice Carpio. Thank you for joining us. May we have your inputs and insights on the pending measure being tackled in this hearing. Please proceed, Justice Carpio. Is Justice Carpio I think the signal for Justice Carpio is not also good. Maybe they will have to, can we have the committee secretary and our technical staff take a look at how we can correct this? In the meantime, I believe we can move first to the KBP. Is that correct, Attorney Seng?
It's Mr. Nick Dow from the KBP. Sir,
Yes.
I think
Yes, go
Justice
ahead.
Carpio's mic is turned off, sir.
I see. Okay.
Thank you,
May we
sir.
request, before we go to KBP, Justice Carpio, we are informed that your mic is muted. Can you unmute your mic, please? Wala. Hindi pa rin. O sige. While they try to figure that out, we will proceed with Mr. Junik Dow of the KBP. Please
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, Your Honors. We submitted a letter to the minority floor leader. May I read the letter of support? We wish to express our full support. Hello? We wish
go ahead.
Yes. We wish to express our full support to Senate Bill number 1530, which the minority floor leader filed last week at the Senate. This bill addresses the unfortunate situation wherein renewal for franchise applications are filed before expiration but are not acted upon in time. During the Senate hearing conducted last March 10, 2020, the Secretary of Justice opined that under the principle of equity, in the absence of a definitive law governing such instances, the NTC should be allowed to issue a provisional authority while the applications are being held by Congress. In the same hearing, the minority floor leader pointed out that the sword of Damocles still hangs over the heads of franchise applicants because there is no clear legislation regarding this. In many instances, applicants for franchise renewal face the possibility of a shutdown of operations through no fault of theirs and at the expense of continuity of public service. The shutdown by NTC of ABS-CBN confirms your assessment. We pray that the bill is acted upon expeditiously. Thank you very much.
Okay, maraming salamat, June, Nick Dow from the KBP. We would appreciate the submission of a written. The letter was sent to Senator Drilon. If the committee can also have a copy of that letter.
Yes, sir. We will forward it to the committee, sir.
Thank you, June. May we have now Justice Carpio? Has he been able to figure out the technical difficulties? Justice Carpio? Unfortunately, we are still unable to get his inputs through online.
Okay,
there.
can you hear me now?
Yes. Magandang umaga po, Justice. Thank you for joining us. You have the floor to present your inputs and insights on the pending measure. Please proceed, Justice Carpio.
Thank you, Your Honors, for inviting me here this morning on your online. I support the enactment into law of Senate Bill number 1530 introduced by Senator Dillon on the ground that it will remove the unequal protection of the law that currently exists in the renewal of franchises by Congress. As the chairperson has just narrated, in the past, all franchisees with pending franchises for renewal with Congress have been allowed to continue operating even if their franchises have expired in the meantime. But the only exception appears to be ABS-CBN, and I think this violates the equal protection of the law under Section 1, Article 3 of the Constitution. So I support the enactment of this bill. I wish, however, to respectfully propose, for purposes of clarity, that the phrase, and I quote, administrative or legislative, end of quote, be inserted before the phrase licensee or franchisee. The reason is that there are administrative licenses and administrative franchises issued by the executive branch. Although the phrase branch of government would impliedly include franchises issued by Congress, it would be better to remove any doubt and clarify that legislative franchises are included. That's my proposal. So those are my only comments, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maraming salamat, Justice Carpio, for your inputs. If I'm not mistaken, I think all our resource persons have no objections to the proposed measure. May we now request or inquire, Senator Drilon, you may have some questions. You have the floor. Please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I am glad that all our resource persons, without exception, has expressed support for this measure. Indeed, as pointed out by the Secretary of Justice himself when he appeared before the Senate, said that there is a gap in the law and therefore equity would dictate that the franchise of ABS-CBN should be allowed to be effective. But having said that, we have proposed this amendment to the revised administrative code. In fairness, this idea was first broached by Justice Antonio Carpio, who is keeping himself informed of this issue. But may we know from our resource persons are they currently applying the provision of the revised administrative code, which expressly provides for the non-expiration of a license over an activity of a continuing nature until there is a final determination by that agency? That is what the present administrative code provides, and this bill would extend that situation to cases of franchises before Congress. But presently, the revised administrative code already provides for that. May we know if the regulatory agencies present here, how do they apply this particular provision? Anyone can answer, but maybe we start with the NTC, Mr. Chairman, if you need your permission.
Yes, Attorney Cordoba, you may please respond to the question raised by the Minority Leader.
Yes, Your Honors, thank you for that question. Currently po, what we are doing is we are applying it, except in the case, in this case, kung kailangan po ng congressional franchise. If there is a need for a congressional franchise, then this law, this proposed amendment would be the one to cure that defect po. Ngayon po, on all other administrative matters, we apply this po. Thank you, Your Honors.
Thank you. Go ahead, Senator Drilon.
In other words, Mr. Chairman, in cases where there is no congressional franchise necessary, this bill this present provision, Section 18, Chapter 3, Book 7 of the Revised Administrative Code, is utilized to extend, in effect, the license. Is that correct, sir?
May I answer po?
Go ahead,
Yes,
go
sir.
ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, that is correct, Your Honor.
No, but just to test your theory, isn't a license also a power delegated by Congress to the administrative agency? Isn't that a power of Congress which it exercises through the administrative agency through a delegation of the legislative authority? So may we know why you would make that distinction in your agency?
Your Honors, yun po kasing batas ay our power to issue those administrative licenses is based on the law existing, yung pong franchise. So based on the Act number 3846, nakalagay po kasi dito that if there is no franchise, then we cannot let the operations of public utility, in this case, a radio broadcast station, ay hindi po namin siya may pagpatuloy. Act number 3846 provides no person, firm, company, association, or corporation shall construct, install, establish, or operate a radio transmitting station or a radio receiving station used for commercial purposes or a radio broadcasting station without having first obtained a franchise, therefore, from the Congress of the Philippines, Your Honor.
How do you reconcile that, Mr. Commissioner, with the present provision of the revised administrative code, which we just cited, that that allows the continued operation of these licenses pending final determination by the agency?
Kasi po, Your Honors, dito po kasi sa as presently worded, Section 18, Book 7, Chapter 3 provides where the license has made timely and sufficient application for the renewal of a license with reference to any activity of a continuing nature, the existing license shall not expire until the application shall have been finally determined by the agency. If we read this, Your Honors, I think this would be referring to a license only that is issued by executive agency of the government. Kaya po ginamit ang word na agency. Kung nakalagay po sana, Your Honors, as you have proposed right now, that it includes the franchise or the license, then yun po ang magiging effect sana. Kung as worded ngayon po yung law as you have proposed, ay gano'n na po ang situation. But if you would read it in its original version, ay nakalagay po is license only and agency. That does not include the legislative department and franchises issued by the legislative department, Your Honor.
Okay. With your permission, Mr. Chairman, we would like to hear the view of Justice Antonio Carpio on this specific issue.
Please proceed. Go ahead, Justice Carpio. You may respond. I think you're again mute. Your mic is muted.
Okay,
There you go. Go ahead. Go ahead.
It appears to me that the Section 18, as presently worded, would refer only to administrative licenses and franchises, because the executive branch also issue franchises like the franchise of the LTFRB. So, and because it's the administrative code, it refers to administrative matters, unless we put the phrase notwithstanding any provision of law, which is in the proposed bill of Senator Drilon. So I think the NTC chair has a basis for saying that under Section 18, the section refers only to administrative licenses and franchises.
Thank you. Senator Drilon?
Again, a general question. The, to our resource persons, can you share with the committee the procedure that your agency follows when a license is about to expire? In what instances do you foresee having to resort to an abrupt termination of the license to operate, or does it occur at all? In other words, when the license is about to operate because of the provision of the revised administrative code, it is just automatically extended. Is that how we implement this? Can we ask, for example, the KBP, what is their experience on this? And this, yes, the KBP.
Yes, may we have June Nicdao of the KBP? What is the experience of your members when it comes? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The experience of our members is that in one of the hearings in Congress, in fact, this particular question was asked, and there is to the Deputy Commissioner of the NTC, and the response then was that unless if an applicant already has filed their application for renewal of franchise, and unless Congress tells them to stop the operation of the said applicant, they will allow to continue. They will allow the applicant to continue to operate in the meantime. That was the experience of a number of our members, Mr. Chair.
When you say, with the permission of Senator Villar, when you say a number of your members, would you say a significant number as a whole?
If I may, in my recollection, there will be about probably between 5 to 10 of our members that had either expiring or expired franchise by the time they got their renewal of franchise, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Senator Villar.
No, we are referring particularly, Mr. Chairman, to how the regulatory agency, in this case the NTC, would handle or would proceed or would decide on matters which were in the license or the franchise expired. That is why we are referring to, we have asked the KBP, because these radio stations also need a congressional franchise to operate. And that is why we're asking for the experience of the KBP. And from what we can gather, is the KBP saying that the experience of their members is that the license is renewed automatically, where the franchise application, which has expired, is pending in Congress. Is that what we get from the KBP?
Not,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, if I can answer.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
That's
Yes.
not exactly the tenor of the of what we experienced, Mr. Chair. It's not an automatic renewal of the franchise, but it's the NTC at that time allowed the members or the franchise applicant who has an expiring franchise to continue to operate its networks or its stations while its application is pending.
In Congress. In Congress.
It's pending in Congress. Yes, Mr. Chair.
So yeah. Go ahead, Senator Villar.
May we have the comment of the NTC on this issue, specifically on the statement of KBP that insofar as the radio stations or members of the KBP are concerned, they have experienced instances where while their franchise application is pending before Congress, the NTC allowed them or either allowed them to continue to operate or granted them a temporary license. Can we confirm that from the NTC, Commissioner Cordova?
Yes, yes, Your Honors. We never issued a provisional license to any broadcaster while their franchise was pending in Congress, Your Honors. What happened then was what happened was we just allowed them to continue operating, and the difference from those instances and on the ABS-CBN issue is that in ABS-CBN, case for co-warranto was actually filed by the Office of the Solicitor General. Kaya po medyo naging untenable on our part to let it continue because of the clear letter of the law in Republic Act 3846, and as interpreted and decided by the Supreme Court in the ACWS case, Your Honors.
Were there other instances in the past where you acted differently from the way you acted insofar as ABS-CBN is concerned? Meaning, were there instances in the past where under the same set of facts you allowed the franchise holder to continue operating?
Yes, Your Honors. Yun pong nabanggit ng mga broadcasters ni Senator Pangilinan earlier, Your Honors.
In those instances, you allowed the broadcast companies to continue operating pending consideration of the franchise application with Congress.
Yes, Your Honors. We did not issue any provisional authority. We just let them continue operating, Your Honors.
You did not issue a cease and desist order.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Just curious, where you find violation of the terms of a franchise or licensee or violation of any laws, what is the procedure you follow? Is it do you automatically issue, or do you issue a cease and desist order where where you find a violation of the law?
Actually, Your Honors, based on the rules of practice and procedure before the NTC, we can issue motu proprio cease and desist order, Your Honor, if there is no license or franchise. If a radio station or a broadcast station is operating illegally without any permit, Your Honors.
I'm sorry, can you repeat, sir?
Yeah. Based on the 2006 rules of practice and procedure before the NTC, we are allowed to issue cease and desist orders, Your Honors, if there is no if the respondent does not have any authority from the Commission to install, operate, and maintain the service facility, upon motion or motu proprio, issue a cease and desist order to a respondent, Your Honors.
Were there instances in the past where you issued a cease and desist order under the circumstances that you mentioned?
Yes, Your Honors. We have already issued that, Your Honors, because sometimes during especially during elections, there are illegal stations that crop up. They start broadcasting. So what we do is we issue cease and desist orders right away, Your Honors, to stop their illegal operation because they don't have any franchise and no permit from the government, Your Honor.
Mr. Chairman, I'll give an opportunity to other members of the committee to ask questions, or if you have any questions, I will defer in the meantime. Yes.
Yes, thank you, Senator Drilon, the Minority Leader. Well, just a clarification dun sa NTC. The cease and desist order. May we know when was this issued? Not the ABS-CBN cease and desist order, but the one about the elections.
Yes, Your Honor. We can submit samples of those cease and desist orders that we issued, Your Honors.
Yes, but offhand, yes, please have them submitted. But offhand, do you recall the most recent one?
I think, Your Honors, during the 2019 elections, we issued the cease and desist orders, Your Honors, because most of these illegal stations crop up and start operating without any franchise or license during election. Makakapag-submit po kami, Your Honors. Can you give us until maybe tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, Your Honors? Madami po yun.
Yes, thank you. And just to clarify further, because you mentioned that we identified earlier during our opening statement a number of instances wherein the franchise had lapsed, but they were allowed to operate. In these instances also, there was no franchise, and yet there was also no. You could have issued a cease and desist order, but did not.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
We will
Okay.
also submit that po.
Yes, thank you. I have no other questions, Senator Vilon. Is Senator Binay still around to ask questions? And well, if there are no other questions, maybe we can now terminate this hearing, Senator Vilon, unless you have additional questions you might want to raise.
No, I have no additional questions. I just note that all resource persons invited, various agencies see the need to amend the provisions of the revised administrative code, given the events that have transpired in the last 6 months. In the case of ABS-CBN, as the Justice Secretary himself said, there is a gap in the law, and therefore this measure is intended to address that gap. But for the record, this representation sees the very clear inconsistency in the manner in which NTC has applied this power of the authority to issue a cease and desist order. There was no cease and desist order issued to various franchises which expired while the application is pending in Congress, but the Commissioner cites instances where radio stations which were operating without a franchise during election time particularly were issued cease and desist orders. That power was exercised then. So at the very least, it appears that there was an inconsistency in the exercise of this power, which gave rise to allegations of unequal protection of the law. But having said that, Mr. President, this is precisely a remedial legislation that we have introduced so that this kind of a gap can be addressed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you to the Minority Leader. And with that, we would like to thank our resource persons.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, please proceed.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we still have resource persons from the MWSSRO and PPA. We recognize them that they're here in the hearing, sir. They will deliver.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
I was sorry. I apologize. I was given a list. And they only mentioned 2 others. So my maybe. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead. And I apologize for the oversight. Please proceed. You have the floor. May we have the MWSS and your position paper on the measure, Senate Bill 1530? Please proceed sa MWSS. Can you hear us? Hindi tayo marinig. Please go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Dilon.
We're asking for MWSS to give his comment. Can I revert back to Justice Carpio? Can we have your valued opinion on exactly where we are today, given the statements of the NTC vis-a-vis the issuance or non-issuance of a cease and desist order? Would you care to make any further comment, Mr. Justice?
Yes, thank you, Senator Don. I think it's clear that there is unequal protection of the law. There is discrimination. And I think this bill will correct that. And I think we should enact this bill as soon as possible because this is a very, uh, very destructive ramification on. We have 11,000 people out of job, and people will not be able to receive news or information. So I think I suggest that the Senate proceed with the approval of this bill.
One question, Justice Carpio. Assuming that this bill is approved and signed into law, for the record, will this assuming that the law provides for an effectivity clause upon publication in a newspaper of general circulation, it will have the effect of automatically allowing ABS-CBN to operate again because the license is in effect deemed extended until acted upon by Congress. Can we share with us your view?
Yes, I share that view, Senator, because the ABS-CBN would fall under the provision of the law because it has timely and sufficiently filed a renewal of its franchise, and the franchise expired without Congress giving a formal notice of approval or disapproval. So, from my point of view, the case of ABS-CBN would fall. But if you want to play safe, you can put there a retroactivity clause to make sure that there will be no question anymore. Thank you.
What do you mean retroactivity clause, Mr. Justice? What exactly?
It can the bill the effectivity clause will say that this the law shall retroact to January 1, 2020. So it covers all those franchises that have expired prior to the effectivity of this law.
To the NTC Commissioner, Commissioner Cordova, if you would please, given this opinion of Justice Carpio, what is exactly the status of the move to revoke the frequency or to get back the frequency assigned to ABS-CBN?
Yes.
Justice Carpio, yes. Can we hear from Commissioner Cordova?
Yes, Your Honors. Right now, the ABS-CBN has already submitted their answer. So the matter is still pending in our office. I think we'll have to go through the process of having a hearing for that purpose, Your Honors.
Yes. Given the fact that the opinion of Justice Carpio is that this bill can be given a retroactive effect, is there any basis for a exercise of your discretion to withhold further hearings on this revocation of the frequency, given the fact that if this law becomes effective, then any issue on the frequency becomes academic, Mr. Commissioner?
Yes, Your Honors. We will study that possibility, Your Honors, and we will also consult with our lawyers, Your Honors.
Yeah, because anyway, in any case, what I'm saying is, if this bill becomes law and it is applicable to ABS, the proceedings for the frequency would be academic. Would you agree with that, sir? Yes, Commissioner Cordova. In other words, once this bill becomes law, any process to revoke would be rendered academic. That,
yes, we will study that, Your Honor. Thank you for that, Your Honor.
Yes. Yeah, that's all. Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Yes, thank you, Mr. Minority Leader. Uh, just, just to reiterate the request for the submission of the cases wherein cease and desist orders were issued by the NTC, because if I recall a previous statement by your deputy commissioner, he said, if I may, that there has been no instance in the past that a cease and desist order was issued by the NTC. So we'd like to see why is there seems to be a conflict, no? So please make that submission, Attorney Cordova. The representative from MWSS has informed us that he is unable to unmute his mic, and therefore, but he has placed on record, he would like to place on record that they will make their written submissions. They will submit their position paper. Maraming salamat. We also have with us from the Philippine Ports Authority, who will speak and give their position paper on the pending measure. Is it Attorney De Los Santos or Attorney Kaabay of the PPA?
Attorney Kaabay from PPA.
Yes, please proceed, Attorney Kaabay, for your inputs and position paper. Go ahead, Attorney Kaabay.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Hello, sir.
Yes, we can hear you, Attorney Kaabay. Go ahead, you have the floor. Thank you for joining us. You are now, I think you have muted your mic.
Okay. For Philippine Ports Authority, we join the sentiment of the majority for the approval of the proposed amendment. And for our position paper, may we be given at least a period of 3 days to submit the same, Your Honor?
Yes. Okay. But for the record, you are in support of the said measure as well.
Yes, Your Honor.
For a written explanation and your submission and your position paper to be submitted later. Thank you, Attorney Kaabay. Attorney Seng, our ComSec, any other resource persons?
All the resource persons have already delivered their position paper, sir.
Okay, and may we remind them and request them to submit in writing their position papers for the committee's perusal and consideration. Senator Drilon, do you still have any other issues you wish to raise as principal author of the measure?
No more, Mr. Chairman. We just like to thank our resource persons and the NTC and Justice Tony Carpio and the other resource persons for giving us time today. We would request that the position papers be submitted to the committee for the record. Those who have not yet submitted in writing, if they can submit it to the committee so that this will be part of the record when we report out the measure to the floor. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the resource persons. Mr. Chairman, we lost you. Mr. Secretary, Mr. Committee Secretary, Madam Secretary, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. We're trying to get hold of our chairman. We're having some technical difficulties with his connection, sir.
Okay, thank you, Senator Drilon, our minority leader, and to our resource persons.
Okay. So we move to adjourn the meeting, the hearing, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman? What happened? Okay, Tony, you can.
Okay. Bye.
Yeah, see you, Justice. Thank you.
Thank you also.
Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay.
Go, sir.
Yes, I apologize for the glitch. It looks like there was a problem with the signal. Again, we would like to thank all who attended this legal consequence. Salamat sa inyong panahon at sa inyong oras. With that, we will now proceed with the termination. The committee hearing of the Constitutional Amendment Committee is hereby adjourned. Magandang araw sa kanilang lahat. Thank you very much.